Yeah.
Thanks everybody for joining this webinar of ours, where we are going to talk about what is to be done coming out of lockdown. There are a number of important considerations when coming out of lockdown. The first is, how do I keep my operations going? How do I motivate my team members? How do I keep everybody safe? Then the second is, how do I think about growth in this time, right? Because one of the thinking that we have over here is that it looks like coming out of lockdown doesn't mean that we're going to be rid of coronavirus, right? One very important consideration and our belief here at Orias is that once you lift lockdown, this thing could even spread, right? Because if lockdown is what was keeping the disease down, then it may even spread post-lockdown. So that is a situation one has to be aware of. In terms of this kind of uncertainty, where one can maybe go back into lockdown, how does one think about growth, right? The next consideration is, how do we think about fundraising, right? Are the venture capital industry going to provide capital over here? Are banks going to lend in this time? So what are the considerations around that? Now, we have received a whole lot of questions. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and cover most of these questions within these topics. And then if you have new questions, please post them as part of the Q&A. You'll see a Q&A button down there that you can click and you can post those. So I have with me two founders of companies where Orias has had the pleasure of investing. One is Chakradhar. The first is Chakradhar Gade. So Chakradhar is the co-founder of Country Delight, which is a company which is supplying dairy products home. They started with milk, then they've added other products, and they aim to bring fresh, natural milk home to everybody, right? The second company is Farm Easy, where Dharmil Sheth is the co-founder. And Farm Easy delivers medicines home. You can enter your prescription online into their app, and they can supply you with medicines, right? Now, what is key about both these companies is that they have been operational right throughout lockdown. So they have a wealth of experience about how to operate during lockdown. They are thinking about marketing. They are thinking about fundraising. So I'm going to tap their wisdom on these topics, right? So let's start with you, Chakradhar. Can you tell us about what are the measures and the challenges you had, once lockdown was announced? How did you keep supplying? Yours is a product that people expect to receive every day at home, milk in the morning. So what did you do?
Hi, thanks Rehan for having me here, and we would love to share our experiences at Country Delight. So to start with, there were 2-3 phases of this entire experience. The first of
all, Chakradhar, can you tell me how many customers and households do you have that you need to supply every day?
Yeah. So Country Delight is basically a direct-to-home consumer brand. We serve nearly 2 lakh families. We are spread across Delhi, Mumbai, Pune, and Bangalore. We are a full stack business model. So we deliver right from the farmer all the way to the doorstep of the consumer. And we currently work with nearly like 3,500 last mile riders who work with us and deliver directly to the doorsteps of customers on a daily basis. So when the lockdown was announced, in the first couple of days, it was very tricky in the sense that there was a lot of chaos, and few of the things that we did that really helped us was one, we went overboard communicating with everybody, all stakeholders involved throughout the value chain, whether it is at the farmer level or whether it's at the production level or whether it's the last mile delivery level. And there were a number of minor disruptions. So being a full stack business, being in full control of your supply chain helped us a lot. During the first couple of days, what happened was there were issues where our vehicles got stopped. There were issues where delivery boys could not go and deliver milk to the household. But the key thing was go very micro, go very hyper local in your approach to solving problems. We had roughly 35 distribution centers. We went ahead and touch base with every local SHO. So we went very, very local in solving our problems. When there were issues with delivery boys, we personally spoke to them. Uh, and the whole organization also came together, because as a business we are very consumer oriented, and we were the DNA was wired never to miss a delivery. So we went the whole organization came together. I think the first 3 days pretty much everyone in the company, maybe like 3,500 4,000 people, worked nearly 16 17 hours to make things happen. And once that was there, the momentum got set. Some of the things that we did, from a sanitization point of view, is we made our own sanitizers using the solutions which we use at our production facilities. We split our delivery slots from 3 to 7 a.m. We our original slots were, we made them into a 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. slot. At no point of time were there more than 15 to 20 people at one location. And we communicated with the delivery boys on this, communicated with the customers on this. Everyone was very understanding and cooperative. We insured all the delivery boys to the extent of 1 lakh rupees. This gave them a lot of sense of security regarding, surety. And the idea was purely like, even at the production facilities, what we've done is we've given homes and food arrangements for all the production personnel, restricting their movement so that there was no inside out and outside in, and hence we were able to control things quite effectively. And even from a consumer point of view, we did some few changes. So initially it was there was a big surge in demand. Our business was part prepaid, part postpaid. We realized that collecting money would be impossible in this. Did some very quick changes in the business model, moved it to a fully prepaid model, and even consumers took it up. Focused primarily on existing customers, moved all the new orders to 7 days later. So these are the kind of things which we have done. So some of the things which really helped us is, one, being very communicative with all stakeholders, being very hyper local in addressing disruptions, being nimble and tech oriented to solve the problems that we were facing, quickly changing your business model. These were some of the things that really helped us here.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. Very useful. Dharmil, anything to add to this as to anything different you did or additional you did on top of what Country Delight did?
No, I think most of them, I think Chakri covered it, but a few things that we did early on, even before the lockdown, was we started proactively running awareness campaigns across all our warehouses, across all our delivery hubs. We have, close to about 10,000 people on our B2C warehouses plus B2B warehouses. So we created like a standard protocol of operations, which would be used by everyone at every location. We ensured there is no movement of people in cross departments. So someone who's working at inward will not enter the outward zone. Everyone having to be checked on temperature while they enter, keeping a distance of more than 1 meter at any point of time in any of the warehouses. Entire HO started coordinating and ensuring that the protocols are being implemented across 8 cities where we have operations. We also started, like Chakri mentioned.
How many customers do you typically serve in a week?
So we do about 40 to 50,000 customers a day. So that's about 3.5 lakh a week. So, and obviously there are repeat customers who keep coming back every 2 weeks or so. We saw a huge surge in demand. Obviously, we do not rely on products directly coming from companies, but we have different sources, which is pharma companies, which is distributors, in some points semi-distributors. We had to manage the supply chain disruption as well. There were issues with manpower at their end as well. So the fill rates that we used to get, if we order 100 units, we earlier used to get about 70 to 80 units landing in our warehouse. But with the lockdown, that number started falling down to about 10 or 20, which would further disrupt the consumer end as well. So we had to, walk that extra mile. We had to provide transportation services to these, distributors, pharma companies, so that we could pick up products from their warehouses. The inbound transportation also was managed by us. We were managing transportation for our employees as well, because in cities like, say, Delhi, where there are multiple cities and borders were closed, it was getting very difficult to have people from, say, Delhi to Gurgaon. Even in Mumbai, some people traveled from to the Mumbai district. So while the borders got closed, immediately got in touch with local police officials. That was the best thing to do, wherein to get permissions from them. We got essential services passes from them. And then we had to manage transportation. We also started driving awareness campaigns across employees and their family members, because today the kind of spread that we are seeing, the entry point or the patient zero, which will affect our operations, can be anyone. It can be any and every stakeholder who gets in touch with us. Someone who's supplying us packaging, to someone who's supplying tea at the warehouses, to someone who's giving us stationery, supplying stationery, someone who's providing food. It can be anyone. So it's very important to ensure that all these stakeholders are made aware about what needs to be done, what are the safety and sanitization measures that they should keep or they should practice, just so that everyone can operate peacefully.
Okay, apologies. I'm facing some challenges with my computer. It keeps logging off.
No worries.
Dharmil, thanks for that. I wanted to ask you, do you have a protocol for people in case they fall sick or somebody gets COVID?
Yeah, so
because there are chances that people can get that.
Absolutely. So what we've done is we've prepared a protocol wherein we have a list of action centers, we have a list of contacts in every city. If there is a positive case, whom should we contact with? Because we are living in now, it's humanly impossible to prevent causing a positive infection in your team. The best you can do is, what's in your control is to manage that situation very well. So we created simulations in our cities where if there is a positive case, what will one do? So there is a step-by-step approach now. Who is to be approached in the local municipal department? Where are the isolation centers in every, which are the hospitals where one can be admitted? Which are the centers that we should get in touch with to get more tests done if needed? So we have all those, point by point flowchart kind of a thing made for every city, which will help us tackle to a situation in case there is a positive case or if there are symptoms with someone in our team.
Okay.
And one thing at least we've done from our end is to set expectations that we've communicated to people that, it's impossible to say that, we won't let anyone have virus or get infected by virus. But we will be there to situation if anyone has been infected by the virus. That's the best thing that we can do.
Okay. Oh, very interesting. And I think that's an absolute key point. As everybody over here thinks about coming out of lockdown and operating, I think one thing we know is that till there isn't a vaccine, this virus is going to be around. The thing that has been holding the virus down has actually been lack of intermingling by work from home, right? And lockdown. Now, once you remove that and intermingling resumes, the probability that people will start getting infected again is going to increase. So thus having a protocol of what you need to do as a business in the event that happens, I think is very, very important. Let's move on now
Yeah.
from this. And thank you for those who are posting your questions on Q&A. We'll come to those in some time. But let's move on from this. Chakradhar, I want to come back to you. So now we are in a very unusual state of operations right now, in the sense that I don't get my newspaper every day, right? I'm not going out and I don't see hoardings on the street. Yes, I see banner ads, etc. Plus, at the same time, there's a lot of economic uncertainty. People have taken wage cuts. People have taken, there have been job losses. How are you thinking about growth and marketing for the next 12 months? Are you putting in marketing dollars to grow the business? Are you letting it grow organically? What are you thinking? If you could please share that with us.
So Rehan, the approach is twofold. So just a bit of context about Country Delight marketing.
If you could speak up a little bit also, Chakra.
Yeah. So just a bit of context about our traditional marketing. We've been a print and BTL based marketing business primarily. And we have put our focus less on digital, primarily because we moved geography by geography, and the whole system built right from the beginning on hyper local marketing through pamphleting and then through regional newspaper advertising and these mechanisms. But once this COVID happened, overnight everything stopped, and initially the focus was just purely on serving existing demand. But then very soon we realized that the CAC on online has fallen by nearly 70 to 80%. So what used to cost me roughly like 1,000 rupees costed me 300 rupees, like on a trial order.
That's totally amazing.
Yeah,
right?
that's
the CAC has come down.
Yeah, the CAC has really come down.
What an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, Rehan. So, but there was one thing which we were clear on, which is that you have to consider a worst case scenario in the business and a worst case runway in the business. And while we are well capitalized, we are a profitable business today. Even considering the worst case scenario, it looked like the runway is good but not extremely comfortable. So we took a fundamental call of cutting the marketing by 70%. But with the 30% that we are able to market, and since the CAC is low, there is a good and healthy growth in the business. So that is the fundamental call that we've taken in a business. Had we had double the money that we have today, then we might have been more aggressive in the marketing. So it's an idea to balance out, to not be too greedy, to not be too afraid on anything, and to sort of find the right balance. The good thing is CACs are very low. Even all these print companies have started coming up with digital packages at very low cost. Like, if their package was originally 100, now their package is like 50. They also understand what's happening, and everyone is looking for business. So it's a good time to sort of tie up deals, get good pricing in place, and sort of work towards it in the coming few months. But right now the environment is highly uncertain. So we have taken a fundamental call of, being very flexible with the decision, not compromising on the profitability of the business, but within the parameters of profitability, whatever is the permissible marketing budget, we are allocating and doing it. The second thing is we have a huge customer base. We have nearly 2 lakh customers. Referrals are picking up. Our customers, there is a lot of positive brand love and brand loyalty that's coming these days. So there is a big referral effect that is kicking in. We are working.
What was the big driver of that brand love and brand loyalty?
So one, the big thing is complete uninterrupted service, Rehan. Like, it was a rare feat, at least in the food essentials.
You didn't miss a single day.
We didn't miss a single day. On our worst day, we delivered 91% orders. So currently we're delivering 100% orders on a daily basis. So that really, and people were needing essentials at that point in time, because there was a lot of panic. The announcement was a little sudden for many people. So, that really triggered a lot of brand loyalty, and our products are good. People love our products, and, and people started trying our other products like the dahi, the paneer, the ghee, the breads, all these products. So people realized the brand value and the brand prop and the reliability of the brand. So all old customers started referring us to many people, because it is a need at the moment. Like, people want reliable essential services which are good. So that's triggered a lot of internal marketing. Our consumers, like we have consumers who claim they are fans of the brand, and it's really lovely to see, how customers have supported us and marketed us as well. The third thing is there are cross marketing opportunities. There are network effects to tap into. We are talking with Pharmacy on a couple of initiatives. So there is this ecosystem of startups where you can work together, market to each other's customers, and build more consumer base. It is also quite cost effective and nimble, and helps you grow without spending too much.
That's very interesting. And what about growth by cross-marketing products internally? Is that something also you're thinking about?
Yeah, that actually we didn't need to do much, because the way the interface is designed and the way the user experience is designed, products are very visible. The idea is to get people to try products, give them good offers within the mobile application. So just basic bundling, basic marketing, but there is a need for these products, and which is there is a demand for these products, which has really made people try. Like for example, breads as a category has jumped 400% in consumption in the last 1 month. Eggs was a non-existent. Like eggs, we started in March, and today it's as big as the breads category. All the products, ghee consumption has risen across families. So there is, like, from a 12-13% cross marketing, we've jumped to a 30% cross marketing in Delhi NCR alone. So we've hit peak capacities across products.
Excellent. Now coming to you, Dharmil, how are you thinking about marketing and growth?
So, Rehan, we are in a situation where there is growth happening by default. I don't know whether it's people being skeptical to move out of their house and hence opting for home delivery services, or is it discounts or whatever it is. But I think there is more than enough awareness that we've already done. We used to do a lot of ATL, and because of which there is some sort of brand awareness amongst people at large. As soon as I think the lockdown was announced, I think our numbers shot up more than 100% within a day's time. And it's a two-way thing. We are looking at stabilizing operations with more than 3,000 people across the country at our warehouses and delivery boys. We wanted to have a better experience ensured, because we don't want new customers to come in and them feeling that, hey, I am not getting my required products in place. We're doing good, but obviously there is some sort of disruption expected due to March end and a new financial year starting. The distribution depots and pharma companies, CNF agents, they go through like a refresh cycle at the start of the year. So there is usually some disruption happening, but again, COVID adding up to it, there was some more disruption. But still, we've been managing to ensure that our fill rates are north of 85%. We're trying to have a great experience for the patients. On the growth front, like Chakri mentioned, we've been able to bring our CAC down considerably. And places where we are operating, there are some local government bodies who are actually promoting our service, because there are very few players who are providing organized medicine delivery at home. There is this thing in Bangalore. We've partnered with the government to launch this service. We've partnered with local bodies in Mumbai with the government, where government is promoting home delivery of medicines via Pharmacy.
But let me just stop you there. What do you think will happen once lockdown is lifted, even if it's lifted in a phased manner? Do you think CAC will climb back up?
I think,
or still remain subdued?
I think it'll climb a little, but it won't go back to the early days where we were. One of the reason being probably there were 20 categories fighting for customers' mind space, and hence everyone wanted a piece of customers' digital usage or maybe a TV advertisement. Today, what we are observing is a lot of categories have pulled down marketing completely. Even when it opens up, it's not going to be as it was in Jan Feb or pre-COVID period. It's going to take a long time to come back to normal. So I don't expect a lot of companies to go back to their previous marketing spends, and hence we will still be much more efficient than before. And also, adding to that, the kind of business model we are into, wherein we are delivering medicines at home, I think this is something which is a top priority for people today. Health, sanitization, their daily groceries, daily essentials. I think these are the things which are extremely important, and hence we'll be able to convert better. Our funnels will improve from where we were before. So definitely there'll be a lot of improvement from what we were in pre-COVID period.
So let me ask you, thanks, that's very useful, that you believe that CAC will remain subdued for some time. So I think there's a tremendous opportunity for people who have the funding and can take an advantage of this, or even bootstrapped or angel funded or seed funded entrepreneurs can certainly take advantage of this to grow their business. So that's very interesting. So, but let me now ask you a follow-up question. This has also been posted on the Q&A. The question is that, do you think that this lockdown has led to a mindset change in people accepting online more than ever before?
Yeah, I do believe it. I think more and more people will start moving to online platforms. Everything right from groceries to your daily essentials to your medicines to your consultation with a doctor. Today, people are scared to even move out of their societies. Forget societies, they're scared to move out of their home. They're afraid that someone in the society might have pressed the elevator button, and if I press the same button with my fingers, I might pick up the infection.
But let's say a year from now, once the fear is gone, right now, let's say it's fear driven. But do you think that this is a habit changing moment? Or you think once the fear is gone, people are likely to reverse? I mean, what are you thinking and sensing from your audience?
I think there are two parts to this. I think more than half of the country is infection free. So obviously they will get back to normal pretty quickly. But we are seeing about 4 to 5 cities where we have some data wherein these cities would not open up very easily and very quickly. Even 3rd May is sort of aspirational for these cities to open up. In 3 months, people will have behavioral change.
This, I'm assuming you're talking about Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, the big cities.
Yes. And, just to give you an example, the kind of data that we've seen is doctors' OPD numbers have gone down by 90%. So if 90% of the patients are not going to doctors, which means that there are 90% less prescriptions being created. Now, this cannot go on for long, and hence people have started adopting to video consults. Now, once a patient experiences a video consult, which is as seamless as an in-person consult or a physical consult, and if they are able to get a prescription, if they're getting the medicines delivered home, this is what will stay in their mind for a long time. And if it's convenient enough, then definitely people will opt for digital platforms going forward as well. And 3 months is a good time to shape a consumer's behavior who are wanting to use something in a time of crisis like this.
Right. Okay, very interesting. So you believe that this is a long-term habit changing behavior?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. So my takeaways from this were that people who were consistent and able to supply built a lot of trust and loyalty. That CAC is down. It's a wonderful opportunity, but at the same time, one wants to be prudent, right?
Yes.
And number 3, that it appears that this is habit changing behavior. So anyone who's thinking of an online service has a larger market now than ever before.
Yeah.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Fantastic. If there are any questions around the marketing portion of this, please continue to post them on the Q&A. We will come back to them. But now I'd like to move on to the fundraising piece. I have a lot of questions already around valuations and everything to do with fundraising. Somebody has asked, how will this affect the IRRs of venture capital funds, of Orias and other VC funds? On the other side, there are questions to the founders. Now all of you have, both of you have marquee investors invested in your company, and you are constantly speaking to them. What are you hearing about the fundraising environment for the next 12 months? Chakri, maybe you can go first on that, and then we'll come to Dharmil.
So, Rehan, I think a lot is going to change, and what we are hearing is that there's going to, a sectoral view is going to evolve. Sectors with tailwinds will be much preferred over sectors without the tailwinds, or sectors where there's a huge amount of uncertainty. It is not that people will not stop investing. There is a lot of dry powder with a lot of funds in India. They've raised a lot of money already, and they will need to invest. But it looks like for the next 60 to 90 days, environment will be very, very slow. Decisions will be very, very slow. But slowly things will pick up. Going forward, the balance between growth and positive unit economics or profitability is going to shift significantly, because habits are changing. The environment is uncertain, and the whole thinking around balancing between growth and unit economics or profitability will change significantly, and profitability will become more valuable going forward. As far as Country Delight is concerned, we are seeing significant investor interest, given that business has grown. We've become profitable as a business during the worst possible time frame in general regarding the environment. But people are evaluative, people are discussing thoroughly. Everything is being looked at with a far more eye to detail, and but it doesn't look like it will be a situation where people are not investing at all. And as far as valuations are concerned, again, like this current timing is very volatile. A lot will evolve in the next couple of months, especially in the mid-late stage companies, probably, where public markets start balancing out and reach a new normal. And based on that, normal valuation will change. That said, online companies globally are doing very well in listed space. Consumer staples are doing very well globally on the listed space as well. So, it should not be a very big deviation, but you won't get crazy valuations either. You'll get healthy valuations is what I think.
Okay, so good time for us to invest in you. You're going to give us a good. You're going to give us a good price.
For you, anything, Rehan.
Dharmil, what's your view? You also have significant investors, and you've closed a large round recently. Congrats on that. Must be feeling good to have some money in the bank and backed by good people. But how do you see the environment going forward? I mean, on one side you have low CAC, so you have opportunity. On the other side, like Chuck's just said, that valuations are likely to be subdued, right? So how are you thinking about fundraising for the next 12 months and so on and so forth?
I think companies like us, even Country Delight, I think the most important thing will be cash in bank. Cash reserves and survival for the next 18 to 24 months is going to be key. Just so that we see through this period safely and we come out stronger from this. I think for a lot of early stage companies, it'll depend on what category they are in. Anyone who is suitable for this category, by suitable I mean customers wanting to use such a service, be it online services, online education, online engagement, gaming, grocery, pharma, all these platforms will be highly appreciated, and they would see some considerable investor interest obviously business models will have to make sense. But any other category which is in the entertainment space or in social engagement, events, etc., they will see a lot of issues or slowdown in the next 1 year or so. Uh, Talking about investor conversations, I think for the next 60 to 90 days, the conversations might happen, but there will not be any decision making because everyone wants to wait and watch for what next. Because there are so many variables right now, no one wants to take a call of, what can a business model be like in the next 18 to 24 months. Once we look at the lockdown being, gone and, slowly the life getting back to normal, I think there'll be a lot of decisions on discretionary spends in families. People might not want to do travel. People might not want to go for movies, eating outside. Or a lot of behavior will change. So that is something that time will tell. But again, I am very sure that discretionary spends will take a hit across at least India. Uh, and then there are very early stage companies who are still venturing out. I think who have just raised funds. I think they should keep it tight. They should keep their spends. Though the CACs are at an all-time low right now, that doesn't mean you venture out and go overboard. I think surviving this phase will be extremely important. And in my view, at least 18 to 24 months is going to be extremely critical. And post that, we should see some, pace of revival coming in. So I think that's my view. Though we are getting, quite good interest from a lot of new conversations. But again, as we are in this, might not a lot of to each category there might be a very different view. Valuations might be different for every category. Again, valuations might be different for someone who has cash reserves versus someone who is low on cash. So things are very, very dynamic, and I think a lot more variables now in place than before. So one cannot have like a single formula for raising funds or having a roadmap for the next 2 years. It's going to be very different for everyone.
Okay, thank you for that, Dharmil. Very interesting that you believe that, and it's consistent to what Chakradhar also said, that you believe that it's very important that we have to be prudent because investors are going to be uncertain. Let me just add to that, folks, how we at Orias are thinking about things. So we think that there are 4 categories of business, right, which are going to be less affected and may even thrive during post-lockdown and semi-lockdown. So I think one thing we can all agree on, that the next 2 years till COVID leaves us, we may see bouts of lockdown, right, or kind of controlled business activity, because if the infection is spreading, then they will want to control activity. So we think that anything to do with retail and travel, first of all, is going to be immensely hit, right? We believe that this category of business could see as much for the next 24 months, could see as much as 90 to 95% loss of volume of business, right? Which is tremendous, because if you think about it, offline retail and travel, including airlines, hotels, and these kind of businesses are almost anywhere between 20 to 40% of a nation's economy, right? Depending on which nation you look at. So we believe that they will be very heavily hit. I mean, take your number, your 90%, 75%, major loss of business, right? Number one. Number two, we think other businesses which do not fall into the following categories, right? One is online to online businesses. Online to online businesses are businesses where you order online and you get the delivery online. So that's like gaming, media, education. Number two, healthcare businesses. Number three, online to offline businesses. These are businesses where I order online and I get my delivery offline. Companies like Farm Easy, Country Delight, Swiggy, etc. And number 4 is SaaS companies which support 1, 2, and 3, right? So other than these 4 categories of businesses, we think all other businesses are going to take some form of a hit, right? Because they are not in these kind of immune sort of areas of business. So that is our view in there. So what we think is that for other than these 4 categories of business, there will certainly be funding concerns, because I mean, why do investors fund? They invest, they fund a company because they believe that the company can go out and capture a certain market, because there is a certain demand to be addressed. Now, if that demand itself is not available, then what exactly are you funding, right? And then, thus, the inverse will also be true, that these first 4 categories of businesses, online to online, healthcare, online to offline, and SaaS that supports 1, 2, and 3, the money will be channeled towards them. So they will see a very large amount of interest, right?
Yeah.
Because people have money, venture capital funds have raised dry powder, they've got the cash with them. Now they need to allocate that cash somewhere, and they're seeing that this is going to grow. So we think these 4 categories of businesses will get a lot of interest going forward. Now, whether it's at a startup stage, I'm getting a lot of questions as to what will happen at startup stage to valuations, etc. I think if it is in these 4 categories, it's going to be business as normal. You may even get business over the top, right? But outside of these, travel and retail, huge hit. Other categories, a fairly large size hit. So that's our view at Orias as to what is likely to happen. Let me now get a whole lot of questions over here, right? Okay, I'm going to start with a question from Harshal Kamdar. Hi, Harshal, how are you? Good to see you on the webinar. So his question is, during lockdown, did you see a surge in digital payments for orders in your business, or was it dominated by cash on delivery? And how did you manage the cash on a daily basis during lockdown? Dharmil, you want to go first?
Yeah. So we used to have a COD to online payments ratio of about 65 to 35%. And this moved to almost 40 to 60%. So 40% COD to 60% online payments. And this number is increasing day by day. We're seeing a lot of people adopting to online payments. Obviously not by choice, but this is forced by the situation. The delivery boys are also not keen to collect cash payment from patient. They are carrying a QR code while delivery and showing code if they can make payments online. So we did penalizing customers for COD and starting the extra rather than incentivizing online mode of payments, because that was not working quite well. So we had to go the other way and start charging on that, and that's moved our numbers quite a lot. But again, it's not that COD has gone down to 0. It may have happened with a few companies, but considering the kind of patient base that we have, the kind of age group that we cater to, it's all 35 plus. So that's where not a lot of people would be comfortable online.
Okay, thanks. And Chakradhar, what did you see? Yours is a slightly different business model. You have regular customers. You said earlier on, you said you shifted everything to prepaid. Was it COD or was it online payments?
All online, Rehan. Like, so we gave some good decent offers to customers for paying online. So,
okay.
And in case of COD, there is no offer. So that is one smaller movement, but the broader movement was the whole messaging around contactless delivery and the need for online payment. We were earlier like a 70% online and a 30% cash business. We have moved to a 90% online and a 10% cash business. We are very strongly discouraging cash from a consumer point of view as well. There are some people who are uncomfortable with the mobile application and all these things. But we are working on WhatsApp as a way to start making payments, and we're trying a few things. but significant change behavior towards online we could move. And typically, like, in a household when there are 3-4 people, one of them needs to be like able to pay online. And as long as that problem is solved, we were able to move this.
Okay, great, thanks. We'll go to the next question. This is by Ronak Vesoha. So Ronak is asking, what are the cultural practices that you that you leveraged to keep momentum and spirits high amongst your team? So Chakradhar, maybe you can take that.
Yeah, I mean, so Rehan, like we've been always a very, very consumer-focused organization, and we take it to our heart and soul to find positive feedback from our customers. So, and this has gotten incorporated in the business, in the DNA of the business over like the last like 5-6 years. And when this whole lockdown started, it was the fear of missing one day's milk to a customer that drove the entire organization to work and find ways and means without thinking of what is their responsibility to get this, like the first day 91% delivery and the second day 100% delivery ratio. So that has been a very, very big strong organization cultural factor that helped us very, very, very dearly in this in the first few days. Any very ownership driven culture. So again, people do not think too much about whether this is my job, this is not my job. People generally move across functions, do what is necessary to get the work done. That was again a very, very helpful thing. So it has been a moment of pride for our company to have achieved what we could, especially in the first few days of the crisis.
Okay, fantastic. Dharmil, anything to add to that? You mentioned earlier that you had given people incentives, but other than monetary benefits, did you do anything culturally to keep people motivated?
I think one thing that we have started doing is creating a campaign around superheroes of Pharmacy. Even in this crisis where people are afraid to move out of their house, there are people working at our warehouses.
That's why I have my superhero background as well.
Yeah,
the coronavirus fighting superhero background.
Correct. So we've started making people feel extremely important, and they are important. They are the pillars of our consumer experience, and that's where we reached out to each and every one of them. There were stories where people walked for about 10 kilometers one way just to reach the warehouse when they were not able to get any public transportation. These are the people we started talking about, highlighting these stories and really appreciating for what they've done for not just us but for people at large. And we started telling people that this is not just a business anymore, this is actually service to the nation. And that's something that people are really, really happy to know and acknowledge. And that's what driving a lot of them as well, that if it helps the nation in fighting this situation, they are ready to go to any extent. So that's a kind of a soldier instinct that people now have at warehouses and the ground workforce that we have on ground. They're really motivated to help the cause at the moment.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, very useful. We will take some more questions. Now, there are a whole lot of questions for me that have come, so I'll just take a moment to answer those questions. One question is around valuations. I think I answered that a little earlier, where I said that in the 4 sectors, right, which is online to online businesses, online to offline businesses, healthcare businesses, and SaaS companies that service 1, 2, and 3, we think there will be a lot of appetite, valuations will be healthy, but we think in businesses outside of those, valuations will be subdued, there may be low interest, and if there is interest, it may not be at very rich valuations, right? The second question is what happens to venture capital funds? The question was, will venture capital funds need to extend their timeline? So as you all know, venture capital funds run a certain timeline, right? 7 years, 10 years, 9 years, etc. and then they can add a couple of years on top of that. Will they have to extend their timeline? So what is interesting is, I think, while all funds are impacted, public market funds are impacted, private equity funds are impacted, VC funds are impacted. I think venture capital funds, because they have a lot of online to online businesses and they have online to offline businesses, are less impacted as compared to other funds. So while they may yet, however, have to extend their timelines if the exit market is not rich, right? Or the exit market is not interesting. And for example, we recently saw this announcement now that Chinese investments into India are going to be limited, or they're at least they're going to have to go through a committee. Now, what that does is that certainly puts a cloud over exits. Because Chinese companies are potentially large acquirers, so that market can go away. Number two, if the stock market doesn't bounce back and IPOs don't come back, that will also put a cloud on exits. And number three is companies which are risk averse, and this is a risk averse period which is going to go on for the next 2 years. We think potentially exits will be limited. But of course, one will have to see what plays out in those 1, 2, 3, 4 category businesses, because if those are the only businesses which are growing, then I'm sure people will yet want to acquire them, want to invest in them. IPO is a form of an investment inside a business, right? So that is likely to continue, right? So those were some of the questions we had. There are other questions around what is likely to happen to early stage businesses. Right, again, think from those 4 categories. How many months of runway do I need if I have only 2-3 months of cash in the bank? My advice to you, and I think the advice that you heard from our panelists over here, Chakradhar and Dharmil, is that try to extend your runway as much as possible. That is what both these companies are doing. They may have a lot of cash in the bank, but also remember that they have large scale operations, so they have larger spends than you do. So in many ways, they are in a similar boat. So I think all companies are looking to extend their runway, and that is what one must try to do, because as the panel has noted, we are in a risk-averse time. Investments are likely to be slow in the next few months, right? So these are some of the questions we've had around venture capital. Let me come back to questions around startups and businesses. The next question that we have is, how are you thinking about new product launches in this phase? Are you going to go slow on them, or are you plan to go ahead as planned, or you plan to accelerate them? Dharmil, maybe you can start.
Sorry, I lost your voice a bit.
So the question is that how are you thinking about new product launches in the coming months? Are you going ahead as planned, or are you holding back? What are you doing?
So in fact, we are going a little aggressive. All our new category launches or product launches were more to do with profitability, and we are pushing the pedal on that front. And that's where our plans, which were, say, we wanted to do a certain product category range by March 2021, we are fast forwarding that and bringing it to September 2020. So a lot of new things will come up. A lot of things on doctor-patient interactions, which we had pushed to probably end of this year. We've got it to April now, and we've started executing those things. We are way how we think of consumer acquisition. We are looking at an online-offline model now. In fact, in Mumbai, partnered with close to 3 online stores already. And we are looking at a completely different kind of experience for patients and other stakeholders in the industry. So we are re-looking at how the model could, be positioned in a new world, which is post-COVID. How would people interact? How would people want to interact? How would doctors want to interact with patients? So we're looking at this from a very different perspective, and we'll be fast forwarding a lot of new development very soon.
Okay, thanks. And Chakradhar, how are you thinking about new product launches?
We are thinking, Rehan, about this is the first thing is if there is any product which costs more than 5% of my cash in bank, I'm not going to do it because cash is king at the moment. So within that framework, if there is a product launch that we are looking at which should not cost you too much in terms of cash in bank, uh, how quickly can you move towards recovering the profitability? So between a capex model and an opex model, you will move towards an opex model, keep it nimble, keep it variable, try to move quickly towards profitability. So if there is a way of making, let's say, on a 100 rupee investment, 30 rupees in 6 months, and there is another way of making on a 100 rupee investment, 15 rupees in 3 months, you go with the 15 rupee one and then move quickly and with an eye towards quick recovery of cash. So it's all very focused on cash and how much allocation do you need to do for a new product. That said, there is a lot of trouble across even food category businesses. There is an immense opportunity to do partnerships where someone already has a product in place, has the infrastructure in place, and you just have to collaborate with them and work with them. So there are a lot of opportunities and there is scope for being very aggressive in this. That said, the primary metric is how much is the outflow, how much is it going to cost you.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. So I think we are out of time. We were supposed to end at 4 o'clock. It's 4:02. What I will do is I will summarize some of the points over here, and then we'll come back for just one or two more questions, and then we will wrap up, right? So if you have your last few questions, what we've been through. The headline over here is that we think that lifting of lockdown is not going to be the return to normal. We are going to see another as much as 18 to 24 months of subdued activity. A lot of sectors will be affected. We could go back into re-lockdown if the infection spreads, right? We think that essential services and online services are what are going to continue to grow unaffected by other spaces. So namely, like I said, online to online, online to offline, healthcare, and SaaS companies that support 1, 2, and 3, right? The other areas are going to be affected. Travel and tourism is going to be very heavily affected. There are a lot of questions around travel and tourism. So we believe that travel, tourism, and offline retail is going to be heavily impacted. We don't know when malls, movie halls, even film shooting is completely shut, right? We don't know when that is going to come back, right? Especially in the big cities, Delhi and Mumbai, which are very heavily affected. They account for a large part of India's economy. We don't know when this is going to come back, right? As far as marketing goes, the summary on that is CAC is low currently, right? It has fallen by, from what I could hear, as much as 66%, is down to a third, right? In some cases. So there is an opportunity over there. But at the same time, there is a need to conserve cash. So one can't just go all out and take advantage of that. One has to yet balance that out, right? In terms of operational issues, what we heard is that the companies, they made a lot of efforts to be in touch with people like police and local authorities in order to keep their operations going. They built a lot of safety systems for their staff, right? And they have a plan in place for when somebody falls sick, right? And it affects a whole lot of people. So that is a very important plan. I think it is foolhardy to operate with a plan saying that, hey, we will escape this and nobody will ever fall sick. If you're going to run any kind of operation, your office, your factory, your warehouse, etc., the likelihood that somebody will get COVID and will land up in your office is quite large, right? So you need to have a plan for that, moving people to isolation centers and so on and so forth. Right. So this is what we heard, mostly in summary. I'm now going to come back and take the last few questions. We have a question around how are venture capital funds going to help portfolio companies in the worst impacted sectors. I think there are two things venture capital funds can do is that because they're learning from across their portfolio and they're speaking to a lot of people, they can share information. And I think certainly our view to people in travel, tourism, and all these kind of affected areas is that you'll have to use your existing cash to stretch out as much as possible, maybe raise a few bridge rounds to try and stretch out. But stretching is the name of the game. We are projecting 18 to 24 months before return to normal for these kind of sectors, right? And I think we'll take a last question. What are the lessons from 2008 that you think will reapply in the current scenario? Well, I think this is a greater crisis than 2008. So 2008 was a financial crisis. There was a problem in the in capital markets, and there was a problem with lending. But this time, for the first time, maybe for the first time after World War II, you actually have a demand side crisis, right? There's just no business activity, right? Or there is only business activity in those 4 areas that I mentioned. Outside of that, there is no demand. There's just no activity. Nobody's buying. They're likely to keep subdued buying. A lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of companies have taken pay cuts. I have friends in travel and tourism who have taken a 66% pay cut in base salary and 100% pay cut in variable. I have friends who have been laid off, in the retail sector. I have friends who are suppliers to retail companies who don't know when their next payment is going to come. So in this situation, a lot of demand is going to evaporate. Remember, even before we got into this crisis, there were demand issues that were going on in India. This crisis has certainly accentuated those demand issues across the country. So it's going to take some time for demand to come back outside of the 4 categories that we've talked about. So we think this is a very different scale of crisis from the 2008 crisis. The 2008 crisis was largely solved using monetary policy, right? Basically, America did a lot of QEs. QEs is a nice name for printing money. America and Europe and Japan and all these countries did a lot of QEs. India did a little bit of QEs, and that's how we got out of the financial crisis. But this is a different crisis this time, right? So it's going to take a long time for it to come back. That itself took 2-3 years to come back. This could be even deeper. So we think while demand could take a couple of years to come back, we think it will take 5, 6, 7 years maybe to get back to 2019 levels. So this is going to be a long, protracted issue. At least that is our view. We are happy to be proven wrong. In this case, we would love to be proven wrong. And we see, the economy returning to where it was in 2019. But we want to be prepared for the worst and hope for the best. So folks, that's all from our side. I would like to deeply thank Chakradhar and Dharmil for taking this valuable time off their very, very, very busy schedules of keeping their companies running and their team motivated and supplies coming in from suppliers. So thank you very much, both of you. Thank you everybody for attending. If there are any questions after this, please feel free to email them to us. A lot of people have asked, what is my email address? It's Rehan@HorizVP. Do keep your business plans coming. Right? And thank you and good to see all of you. Bye-bye.